Hello and welcome to our D&D miniature printing painting show. There we go. Today we are going to be doing some painting of the magic shop that we assembled last time. That is these tiles, these dungeon tiles right here. So, these are all pieces that we 3D printed, assembled, and I've primed now, so they're ready for painting. We did them on those 3D printers. They're going behind me right there. If you're interested in the designers of these, you can go to our website, dicendungeons.com, and under the Attributions tab. We're doing this magic set first, because our patrons voted for it. So if you would like to take part in polls on what we paint and what colors we paint, all those things, go to our Patreon at patreon.com/diceanddungeons. And any tier gets access to the polls. So we're going to be painting all of this today. The wall color that was voted on was this sort of ivory white for the walls. The only pieces that are not ready to be painted right now are, this magic circle, which needs to be primed still, but will be exciting when we get to it. And this door frame, which just got changed a little and is still setting a little bit right now. So those are the two pieces that are not ready to be painted. I'll set them off to the side. Otherwise, we have counters, we have a door, and a whole bunch of these tiles. And these are all magnetized so that they hold each other together fairly well while you move them. But they're not clipped together, so they don't take a ton of strength to take one off. Another nice thing about these dungeon tiles is that because they're magnetized, you can easily sort of change the layout of whatever you're making, like this. Let's put one here. And suddenly, you have a whole different magic shop layout. Just play around with it, it's fun. So, what we are going to be doing is, these are stone floors. So, we're going to have gray floors, white, ivory in the plaster sections, and then a wood for the beams. Will be our sort of plan for today.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, what would you like me to do?
Would you like to start with the floors? Do gray?
I could start painting gray. We're doing this neutral gray or a darker gray?
Let's go neutral gray with it.
Okay. This is easy.
So, I'm going to hand pieces to you.
Okay. I'm getting a glow.
Would you grab one for me as well? They're right there under the... Alright. And I am going to start putting the metal color in on these windows. The panes here. These cross hatches? I don't know what you call them. Are going to be painted in a steel, and I'm going to get those in nice and quick so that we can get through all these pieces.
So they have these nice crevices. I'm thinking not trying to get any paint into those, just leaving them black.
It's fine to get a little in because they're going to be washed.
Mm-hmm. But it's actually hard to get. As you can see, they're pretty deeply
As long
inside.
as they look okay, I think it should be fine.
Well, let me do one and see.
So I'm going to be using this steel. If I could have a cup. You have... No, I meant an empty cup. Thank you.
And I'm doing neutral gray. And I'll be painting floor tiles. I'm going to use this glove for these because these I can just hang on to on the bottom like that. And get a little bit on my fingers. But I think I'll start with one of these just to see how it goes. There's a little gap there between the floor and the wall, which is kind of nice. That'll get a nice dividing line without getting paint all over everything. And I'll be using a little larger brush because there's a fair amount of surface area.
Okay. My steel's all mixed up. I shouldn't need a huge amount of this steel color because I'm just getting these windows painted in.
So just to see how this goes, I'm going to start with the surface along the wall.
And since I know that we're getting wood painted over some of this door frame, I'm not going to worry too much about getting some splotching. It's mostly about making sure all of these sort of awkward areas are covered. Because it can be a little awkward when you're sort of painting on an open lattice work and there's a lot of little surface area. It's really easy to hide where you might have missed. That's why I am doing this first, so that we can be more thorough in our application.
There's a lot of texture in these floors, so I need to kind of move the brush back and forth to get into all those nooks and crannies. And even then it's a little hard. I could probably leave some of it, because with the wash later, we're just going to want it to look variegated anyway. But, you know, for the most part, I want this to look really kind of uniform.
Kind of flat.
Yeah, and then use the wash later to bring out...
Hi everyone, yes, we did do a flip, you missed it.
Now I'm going to do the sides.
We didn't actually do a flip.
We usually do the sides as well, just in case, you know, there's a separation between the tiles.
What I'm doing is actually going through each pane and sort of swirling the brush around to make sure it's got the steel along the insides of each pane, because although it might not be super visible, you don't want to have it missed. And now I'm going to do the other side, and I can just get the surface coated here. And this is real quick and dirty. There's going to be little splotches on the sides, but those are all getting painted over, so I don't have to be careful until I do that part.
There's a before and after on the floor of one of the roundy bits. So
I am going to make sure I break up any bubbles I see. And now I'm just going to give it a quick visual inspection, see if I missed any spots. So you can already see, compared to the black, how much that simple dark steel color shines. Like that. So that's going to be a good sort of base for us. And I'm going to set it over next to you so you can do the floor. The floor is looking... It's very flat right now. And actually, when you're doing the floor, if you wouldn't mind just going along
all the way down to the bottom?
To the bottom of the base, too.
I didn't know we were doing all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah, just to give it a consistent look all the way through. We typically don't, but we're looking to make these more of a complete, full thing. Because these are not planned to go on the show. Instead, we are working out an Etsy shop.
Okay, well, there.
And these might be part of it. Thank you.
You too could have some of these.
And then what we'll do with these walls is on the outer part, we'll do that in the wood color. But we just want to have a full consistency across it, you know.
Yeah, so the bases don't necessarily show.
They don't necessarily show, but they'll look better.
Yeah, and we don't know how people will be using them. We know how we use them.
Mm-hmm.
We use them to make combat stages.
And yes,
where
we do.
Kill 9s.
Thank you. Yes, we worked this set out. Had our patrons vote on which one we'll do first, and this is the first set. It's also our smallest set we designed. We have a Necromancer Crypt printing right now, which has some neat little things. So that'll be coming up in the future. Wording on the sweatshirt is backwards because we had to invert the camera so that I was above my my spot. So you're actually seeing the inverse horizontal flip of reality right now.
Yep. Nicole's reality is flipped at the moment.
Just mine?
Well, no, both of ours, but
Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to read what's on the sweatshirt anyway. It'll offend a very large city in Illinois.
So. Yeah, exactly. Cats chase dogs. Up is down. Oops, I got a little much on that wood. But actually the wood with the metallics looks kind of neat.
Yeah, it does.
I accidentally splotched a little up there. I like metal wood is pretty cool looking, actually.
Ironwood.
Yeah, it's ironwood. There you go. Alright. I actually definitely did not pour enough paint for myself. These,
yeah, they don't look very big, but there's a lot of surface area.
They don't, yeah. Because each bar you have to paint all 4 sides of it. They actually take way more paint than they look like they should. If you sort of flattened these out, they would be quite large, surface area-wise. Just going through one at a time, making sure they are and then sometimes they also form little, like, it's almost like on a bubble blowing stick. It'll create like a little film across the little pane, which is cute looking, but not great for drying. So I need to go in and just pop those periodically. Where the surface tension is just holding it in place across the gap. one last window to do.
And then these should be dry enough for you to start being able to paint some of the plaster.
Yep, that would be my next step once I get these windows in. But I wanted to get these in first because they're the messiest thing to do on the model. There's not an easy way that doesn't take a very long time to apply paint to these panes. So by doing it first, I'm able to do it a little messier and quicker, which will save me a bit of a headache down the road.
Yep. And then the part that we'll be doing last will be the part that requires the most attention, which is the wood, because there's...
It comes in contact with every single part of these.
Yeah.
Which means we have to be kind of careful.
Yeah, you want to minimize the touch-up.
Minimize how much fixing you need to do, exactly.
But there's a lot of contact edges.
And once you get all those on, then we're going to be doing two types of wash on this. We'll be doing a black wash on the bases that my dad is doing right now. And then there's the last window. Alright. Clean off my brush.
And an umber wash on the plaster and the wood.
And I'm going to go a little lighter on the umber wash than I did in like our warehouse set that we did for the show. Because the magic shop's probably pretty clean.
Yeah, the warehouse is pretty worn.
But a magic shop, you know, if you have access to some cleaning spells, why wouldn't you use them, right? I'm going to rinse this out before it dries.
As I continue to paint these floors.
Figured I'd grab our little airbrush because I'll need to do that later.
Yeah, need it sooner than later, yeah.
Quick inspection. Alright, so what we're looking at is I have all of these pieces that have bases painted on them, and I'll have more coming. So, can I have another cup when you're ready? What I need to do is apply. What happens if you have a gleaming box and you open it up and throw dirt into it? I think the dirt sits in the box. Technically speaking, the dirt sits in the box and then it just pours out without attaching at all to the box later, because gravity still works on it. And it's just that gleaming just makes it so dirt and grime can't adhere to the surface of it. But I think it would be funnier to have the dirt sort of float in the middle, unable to land on anything. Because technically, the gleaming doesn't stop dirt from being on a surface, it just doesn't let it rub in or attach or get dirty. Technically. I know, it's not as fun.
No, it would be even better if it, like, kicked it out.
Oh yeah, like forced it back out at you. So, we haven't used this ivory in a while.
Yeah,
And we have another one. This one's not super full, but
yeah, if it's still working, you can thin it a little bit if you need to.
I think it'll work. Let me just take a look at it.
Oh, I've been touching your window. I got steel on my thumb.
And you're not wearing your glove.
No.
I think this will work. I'm just gonna stir it up a little bit. But that bottle's pretty much dead. That's an old bottle. Is there a magic that's the opposite of gleaming, where it attracts dirt?
No, there should be.
Yeah, it does feel like there should be. So my main goal here is to get a good line along the bottom edge here, where it is meeting the floor, without painting the floor with this.
Now around the wood, I think it'd be good if you ran it up onto the wood some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm doing right now, though, is I'm gonna just build a, I'm using this finer brush, and I'm going to build a little, what am I looking for a word?
Demarcation, line, boundary.
A little area, safety area, so I can use a bigger brush, and not have to get as close to the floor, so I don't run the risk of painting the floor with it when I go in with a larger brush. So for now, I'm actually going to go along each tile and create this like centimeter long strip of ivory, like this. And that gives me a little extra space when I go in with a bigger brush to avoid getting near the floor. It's sort of a little prep to protect myself from headaches in the future. Because you can control, you get a lot more control painting with a smaller brush, but you can't apply nearly as much, obviously, because it's smaller. So there's a lot of give and take, and since I want to cover a large amount of surface area, by doing this, I set myself up to avoid future problems. Is effectively what I'm doing. So, just like that. It's sort of like doing the edges on a wall painting a wall before, without going up to it with the roller. It's sort of a way to look at it. Because ultimately, I need to cover this whole area up here with plaster color as well. Building in that safety zone. And as we get all this painted in, we're getting the base coat in here is what we're sort of doing. And the base coat, it'll end up looking a little flat. Like this gray Looks fairly unimpressive, very flat. It has no texture or feel to it, which is great for a base coat, because when we get in with a wash later, we'll be able to create and expose all sorts of variation within that piece.
Yeah, the washes really make a big difference. Nikki's been very good at wash.
But for now, we gotta get the base coat in. Just like that. And I won't need to base coat any of these three at all, because they are just floors and a wooden beam. They have no plaster to paint. Now we had a variety of color options. We had blue, white, purple, and I think red for the walls. Our patrons voted. It was a pretty close vote. A lot of people, some people like blue, some like purple, but white won out just by a little bit. So, here we are, painting a white.
Oh, you can see the little magnets underneath. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. So these are magnetized. Those are the magnets on the bottom. So I'm thinking for the wood, if we were doing a dark blue or something, I would probably want to do like a buff or some lighter wood, like deck tan. But since we're painting a white wall, I think we need sort of a richness in there. So I'm kind of thinking red-brown maybe.
Yeah, the red-brown's a good color. We use that for wood a lot, and it always turns out nicely.
It's a nice, rich wood tone.
Yeah, this fireplace is done in that.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. It looks good against most colors.
But it's not super dark, so we'll take an umber wash without too much trouble.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to make it really high contrast, you could use the flat brown.
But I would like to just make it sort of high contrast. Okay. I was like, I think there's one more curved wall. You have it over there.
Oh, okay.
It's okay, you have time. I still have another window to do after this.
I'll set this aside. I apparently had lost this one because it was way off to the side, and I didn't. It was behind the lamp from my perspective. The camera circle lamp, yeah.
One of these guys. Yeah. And while we're painting these, I'll just plug our other shows a little, because why wouldn't I do that?
Well, you should, because we're brilliant in those other shows.
So, if you're interested, tonight even, we are doing video game streaming. My wife Lexi and I do that Mondays through Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Definitely worth checking out. You can chat with us on Twitch. Just hang out while we play some games and just our kind of sort of stupid hang out a bit, you know. Otherwise, we're doing another painting stream this Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern here on this channel. And our main show that we use tiles like these in is Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, where we play Dungeons and Dragons together. And it's a whole lot of fun. I think we just had we're almost airing our 40th episode of it, if you can believe it. And that's at 2 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to check out any of these, they're also on our YouTube. So you can click, I think there should be a link here on Twitch, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you probably know where to find us. Since you're already there. Alright, and this is the last one. I'll be a little careful because it's still a little wet. Of the non-floor only pieces. While you have the gray out, though, you can paint the bottoms of these counters.
No, the stone part.
Yep.
Yep, as soon as I finish the floor, I'll do that.
Since you have it out, might as well. And I have just enough paint to finish these bottom lines, I think. It's pretty tight.
Okay, now I'll paint these floors. This is where the gloves will come in handy. I don't know. Maybe I'll use this little stick at the very end to get the tiny little corners that are left.
Okay, all of the bottom lines of plaster are in. So, I'm going to give my brush a quick wash so that I don't damage it, because the ivory has a tendency to clump on the brush. This is like, I can feel it's like empty, but I'm going to see if I can get anything out of it at all. And I don't think I can, since nothing is coming out. So, this is the downside with the Vallejo style, where it's a dropper head like that, is that you can't open it up and see if you can scrape any paint out, so you do get a little loss. The dropper head has some advantages, of course, but we have several bottles of this ivory. So.
Yeah. The other thing is you can't stir it from the bottom, so that's a new one, and it could be settled really.
Yeah, so this one's been sitting in our storage area for some time, so I'm giving it a very thorough shaking. I'm gonna also toss this so I don't get confused. There we go. And I'm gonna start with the window ones, because they have only the tiniest bit of plaster on both sides. And that will let me get through those quick, so I can hand them off to you when you're ready for doing whatever the next part is. We're sort of tag teaming the this whole set and getting through it fairly nicely. I'm not going to use a huge brush. I'm going to use this sort of medium-sized brush to do this, because I do want to maintain some control over what I'm doing here, but I don't necessarily want to take a year to paint these. So I've shaken that quite a bit. It's actually coming out all right. The ivory, for some reason, maybe it's because it's colored like milk, but it feels like it curdles sometimes. I don't know, it gets lumpy sometimes, I've found, but that's just down to shaking it enough. So I'm just taking a blob of ivory, and the ivory tends to be a little translucent.
Yeah, it's not going to work. Not enough surface area for the stickiness.
You'll just have to get your glove a little painty.
Yeah.
That's why we wear them.
Just touch it up on the corners when I'm done.
So, I'm trying to be fairly thick with my application of the ivory, just because it tends to be on the translucent side as far as the colors go. So
I'm going to paint the edges of this one first so that they're mostly dry by the time I have to touch them when I get to the other corners.
And there's the plaster section. You can start to see the colors we're going for, but it'll really pop once the wood color goes in. Right now it looks a little funky. Yeah.
Yeah, a little lumpy, but...
Well, no, lumpy and funky. But once the wood goes in, this whole piece will suddenly come together. And it's kind of a fun part of the model painting, is when you kind of cover up that last bit of primer and the whole thing comes together suddenly. Visually. It's fun. I enjoy it, at least. And one thing, this plaster has a very nice plaster texture to it, but it wants to bubble as well. If you go too quickly with the brush, it kind of froths. So I'm trying to be, fairly conscientious of my speed so that I don't develop bubbling. And one thing I'm trying to make sure of is that I get the paint up along these inside edges of the wood. It's a little hard to see because it's just a white blob basically right now on the screen. The plaster, it does not show the best. It flattens out a bit, but once it gets textured and washed, it really shows nice.
Yeah, putting the plaster up on the side, there's a little bit of a cheat because the wood part is raised up, and to get a nice clean line, painting right up to the edge is the way to do it. So the plaster, in effect, comes up to the inside edges of the wood, but it really makes a big difference in terms of being able to get it done without too much work. Trying to get the wood all the way down to the edge of the plaster, that's a chore.
And it's invariable, but there will be a tiny bit of stone touch-up, even with my work. They're like the tiniest drops, but,
Yeah.
that'll be like a swish-swash with a...
Yeah, you get a tiny brush and you just touch a dot of gray onto the dot of
white.
Ivory, yeah.
So it really doesn't take much, it's just one of those,
Okay.
try to avoid it situations.
Okay, well, now I'm going to paint the stone on these tavern tables. The base is stone.
Just the base. And there are 2 wood uprights on it, which you don't have to cover, but you don't necessarily have to avoid at this stage.
Right. So I'm going to continue using the big brush, just for the sake of speed. Because there will be brown paint put on those.
Okay. There's my second piece done. Setting them up out of the way. And this ivory provides a nice plaster, sort of cream color. Whereas if we were using like the flat white or something, it would just be like paper white, you know, which doesn't really feel like how plaster should feel. Hence why we don't use it. This has sort of a richness to it. That.
And since it's a, you know, but a magic shop, so the owner is rich and can afford rich plaster.
Rich plaster? Because it's richly colored.
Either that or it was made by someone whose name was Rich. Then it definitely would be rich plaster. In fact, it would be Rich's rich plaster.
Maybe Rich is a witch.
Could be. Rich the witch, Rich's rich plaster.
Alright, see, these are going pretty smoothly now that I don't have to worry quite so much about approaching the already painted section.
Say that 3 times fast.
No.
That 3 times fast. Huh.
You're very proud of yourself for that one, aren't you?
No.
No?
No, not really. Why should I be? Should I be?
I don't know. Okay. Now this is the smallest set that we're gonna be doing. The Necromancer set is sort of our next smallest. We're gonna be slowly scaling up to our biggest, which I think is we called it the Shadow King's Throne Room. Which will be a big, impressive throne room that we'll have up.
Throne in it.
Yes, there is a throne for it.
Although the set is definitely not designed to be thrown. I imagine you could.
These pieces are fairly sturdy, but they're not going to hold up to throwing.
No.
A lot of throwing, at least. I've dropped them without problems plenty of times. But throwing...
So if you purchase one of the throne rooms, you can be confident that it is not free thrown.
And I've gotten better about not dropping them, so you should be fairly confident that it's not pre-dropped either.
Although, to be technically correct, pre-thrown means before it was thrown.
So everything is pre-thrown.
In fact, then I was wrong. You would have gotten the throne room pre-thrown because it had...
It wouldn't be post-thrown.
No.
So it's less a throne room and more of a throw room.
It's a you may throw it if you wish room.
Once you buy it, it's yours to do what you want with.
But it technically wouldn't be a throne room until after you throw it.
Yeah. Alright, now I'm getting to the areas that have a lot more plaster surface area, so they're going to take a little longer. Especially these round ones, because they're quite a bit of surface area.
Okay, well, I'm done with the gray now. So I suppose I'll need to pull out the red-brown and start doing little detail-y work.
Yeah, you're going to start doing the windows?
Yeah, I'll start doing the wood, yeah. See how that goes, see if I make a mess of it or not. You know, these larger brushes hold so much paint. Especially,
yeah.
You know, you've got one like that too.
Yeah, my clear handle one.
Mm-hmm.
Just gonna get a little more of this paint. Because there's a lot of surface area on these.
Okay, so I'll get rid of that brush. This brush is not as tiny as the one that Nikki would use for the same sort of work, but I find that I'm able to control it fairly well. These are nasty. There's like edges all around here, but also inside the frame.
Going up to the window, that's the hardest part of the whole tile.
Yeah, this will be, these are, you know, and then there's two sides to it as well. So,
and you'll want to get it along the bottom back.
Yeah, the edges along the bottom.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how this goes. Red brown.
I'm thinking of actually using black wash for the plaster because I don't want it to look dirty. But I want to tone it slightly.
Yeah, you could see how it looks. I mean, if it doesn't work, you just
repaint it.
Repaint it. We've done that with things before. Okay. This looks so nice and chocolatey all the time. So I'm going to start with the... Take off my glasses so I can actually see things. I'm going to have to bring it up closer now. I'm going to try to paint these up to, but not over,
the plaster.
The window frame.
You're doing the window frames first. Good luck. Yes, do we want to do the full window frame where we do glass in it? Do you think? I don't know if we have it right now. Enough of plastic.
I don't know if we have enough for that.
So one thing you can do with these is take a little thin sheet of plastic, cut it to size, and glue it in against it so that you get like glass window pane that's still see-through. Which is a really fun, cute thing to do, but I don't think we have the supply of plastic right now.
No, I don't think we have enough for this. We'd have enough for like a couple.
Yeah, there's a lot of windows in this set.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It's one of the draws for this set, I feel like, but it kind of balances out the smallness of the set and the amount of work it requires.
That's why it will only cost you, what, $800-900 if you want one of these?
No.
No?
We don't have a full price point yet, but it will not be $800 or $900.
Half price. No, not that either.
Probably not. Not even painted. Okay. Get the hair out of my face. I always forget to put on a hair tie when I'm painting. I should just bring a big old pile of them down here so that when I inevitably remember that I should have one, they're present, but I doubt I'll do that.
So you can see that because of the 3D printing, there's actually kind of a thin line of extra plastic there along the top because it basically was extruded over air, anything underneath it. So, but when you're looking at it, you can't see that. So I just need to make sure that it's painted in far enough so that that part's covered. I'll do the back.
We have 5 of these rounded corners to get through, and I still have to do the back. These ones have
There's a lot of surface area on those.
A lot of this plaster. But coming along. And then, once we get all these base painted, get the base coats in, the next thing is to go through, inspect each piece, see if there's any touch-ups needed. Like sometimes you get a little thing like that where I got a tiny speck of white on the stone here, and you just go in, cover that up with the right color, let that dry, and then once you've inspected each piece, made sure it is correctly base painted, then you get to do the wash, which really finishes the piece in a lot of ways. It adds a lot of depth and texture and contrast and tone that really makes things pop.
Okay, so now I got the window frames done. Yeah, it actually came out really quite well. Now I'm going to do around the plaster. And then I think I'm just going to keep doing that with these. And then
get all of the detail stuff done first.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can do the centers.
Yeah.
That's always a good way to do it. What I did with the plaster, for example.
So this is where this comes in. The wood has a raised edge. And I'm just painting up along the top of it, which is why it was important to have the plaster up on the inside. Otherwise, I'd be painting on the inside edge, and that would be really quite difficult to do this whole thing without having to go back and do a whole lot of plaster color touch-up.
That took a lot of ivory to do. One of these. And I have 4 more to do. Nothing to do but keep getting through it.
So you can see how that this is a nice clean looking edge without having to be like impossibly accurate. To get into the wood grain printing is really deep here, so I have to get into those grooves. Okay, so this out, now I have to do the front of it.
Pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Each individual piece, I feel like, has its own challenges, but the windows are probably the most challenging piece in this set.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of that inner frame that the window has, which looks great. It adds a bunch of depth to the piece and everything like that, but can be a little hard to paint.
Yeah, it just adds to the time it takes to get a piece done.
Now, of course, once we get our Etsy shop up and running, you will have the option to buy these just primed, not painted. Yeah, so you could watch this video and try painting them yourself the way you would like to.
Yep.
But see how we do it.
You can do all sorts of different colors then. Like whatever house paint you happen to have sitting around, right?
It does have that fun advantage of you can choose much more easily exactly how you want your set to look for your role-playing setting or whatever you're interested in using it for.
Okay, so I got the edges around the window and around the plaster on both sides. And I'll do, made a lot of these windows.
There are 4 windows. So, just to take a quick look, you're seeing the red-brown is going in, but we're only getting the edges right now. This will let us go around later and fill in the rest of it without worrying quite so much about making a mess of things. We have a couple more of these magic shops printed up and ready to go, but we're just going to prime them. We're not going to necessarily paint them right away because we want to see, leave them sort of open and ready rather than have a bunch of fully painted ones that people might not want to buy the color of,
Okay,
or
the bottle cap is still in.
anything like that. So you can see I'm also kind of going around the edges and then filling in the middle afterwards. It's just a useful way to get cohesive edges and everything like that. But it's not necessarily the only way to do it. Okay. 2 out of 5 curved walls. Done. These take quite a bit of surface, so they'll be fun to wash as well. But I have a fairly simple but good plan for those. And I figure I would do the washing because I kind of like it, and you seem ambivalent.
No, you seem you're really good at it. I tend to be a little more haphazard, I guess.
So once you have all of the pieces washed or painted with the brown, well, each finished one at least, I will start washing once they dry. You can sometimes get away with painting something that's still wet, but when you're doing a wash, you really want the surface to have dried pretty well before you go in and mess with it too much. So I'll probably be doing some touch-up as you finish each wood section. Mostly on the floor, I'm guessing, but maybe
or
a little on plaster here and there.
If you want to, we have another red-brown we could open potentially. Or I could just move this over and you could finish the wood.
That's true, I could do that as well. Yeah. However, sort of figuring out our dividing up method here on the fly.
Whatever would be.
I think that would be fine to do.
Yeah, just to, to move it along.
You getting the edges and then I'll finish?
Mm-hmm.
That works. Although it's going to be a little bit. I have 2.5 of these curved walls to do.
Yeah, I've only got 1.5 windows done.
But all in all, it's been an hour since we started, and we're really chugging away at this set. I think we can probably have them done.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like we might be able to get a whole
in
set
like 2
pretty much
to 3
painted
hours.
in a little more than, yeah, it might be a little more than 2 sessions, depending on whether we have to wait for things to dry or not.
I think the touch-up phase should be long enough to let things dry for the finishing. The slowest drying paint of the ones we're using is the ivory here.
Mm-hmm.
And since I'm applying that now...
Yeah, it'll be dry by the time the brown is
Yeah,
done.
I mean, honestly, the ones you're working on are already pretty much dry.
Yeah, they're still a little tacky, but they're not bad.
Oh, you should move your camera a little closer to you, or move your arm
Out of it?
away.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let me just
I needed to have the piece a
There you are.
little closer to me here.
Just making sure people can see it. That's the nice thing about our new setup, is that we can easily readjust the cameras as needed to get right over the pieces that we're painting. I know we're a little smaller, which is sad, but the actual thing that you might be here to watch is a lot more visible.
And I'm really not 6 inches taller than Nikki. It's the other way around.
He's just on a...
I'm just on a taller stool.
I'm not 6 inches taller than you. I'm like 2 inches taller than you.
2 or 3, yeah. Taller. Every month or so, you're even taller than me, because...
You're shrinking?
Yeah, that happens when you get to be 700 years old.
Are you Yoda?
Yes.
Well...
What I am?
Not many people knew that in his prime, Yoda was 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
That how it works?
Yeah, hardly anyone ever knew that. You never hear anyone comment on it.
No.
A closely guarded secret it was.
Do you know the names of the only known members of Yoda's species canonically?
Besides, what is it, Grogu?
There's Grogu and Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a third one.
There's a third one.
From the prequels. A Lady Yoda.
Ooh, I don't remember that.
You don't know her name, do you?
Mm-hmm.
It is Yaddle.
Yaddle. When did Yaddle show up?
In the prequels. She's a member of the Jedi Council.
Yeah. Well, I'm just not... obviously not in the know as you are about these things.
You were laughing at... We were watching Book of Boba Fett, and... You know, not to get into too many spoilers or anything, but there is without naming much, there's a Naboo starfighter in it. And you were laughing at Lexi and I, because we were appreciating that they used the same startup sequence for a Naboo starfighter in this as they do in the prequels.
Yeah, they went out of their way to focus the camera on the same organization of switches activated in the same order.
Yep.
And it's like you memorize the startup sequence.
It's not a very complicated startup sequence.
No, but nonetheless, that you even paid attention to it.
We are by no means the most well-versed in Star Wars either. There are people out there who are way more.
Yeah, that's why the continuity editors Yeah, Disney must just be.
I feel like the continuity editors, I'm sure that's actually a thing, but
Oh, I'm sure they probably have like a crew of 4 people.
in my heart, I think it's just Dave Filoni just saying, no, it's actually this. And then they go back and look on tape, and they're like, dang it, he's right.
Uh-huh.
That's sort of my... Because I'm a big Dave Filoni fan. He's done a lot for Star Wars and taking up the TV shows. Now he's a creative director of all of Lucasfilm. I almost am through the penultimate plaster. I was just thinking, painting these walls, like, would a wizard have popcorn textured walls?
No. But the ceiling would definitely have been popcorn textured.
Before they moved in, and they just, even with magic, they couldn't remove it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they couldn't do anything about it. It was just there forever.
Our house had popcorn walls, and I really don't like popcorn walls at all.
Oh yeah, it wasn't the ceiling, it was the walls.
Down in the basement, it was the whole basement, all the drywall, popcorn walls.
Except it wasn't like the popcorn that you put on the ceiling where you just spray
it was like
spackling compound on where you can scrape it off and it's really soft.
It was like they took a sponge and like went to create like meringue style peaks that were sharp.
Hard plaster
Spikes all over the walls. It was awful.
Yeah, I know. If you bumped up against the wall, you actually could hurt yourself.
Yeah. And when we redid the whole basement a while ago now, frighteningly. And when we'd had everything torn out, we were adding in a wall, and we asked the drywall people, how much would it be to get rid of all of this? And it was like, they're just like, yeah, we'll do it. It was like really cheap. And they just like power sanded it.
Huge sanders in, closed the thing off with plastic, put on respirators.
And just went all over the walls.
And there's a lot of walls.
And I can't, oh my god, it's so much better not having that on the wall.
It was a lot of work for them. I think that they not only had to sand it all down, but then they had to skim coat the entire wall. So it was basically more work than if we had torn off the walls and they started with fresh drywall.
Yeah.
But it came out really well.
I'm just glad it's gone.
Yeah, I'm surprised you survived as kids and didn't hurt yourselves seriously on it.
Oh, I know, running around in the basement. And it's like, I mean, we kind of knew, try not to run into the wall because it was like a painful experience. But, you know, you're running around playing with like Nerf guns or whatever, and it invariably happens. I'm pretty sure I cut myself once or twice on it.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody could have avoided it. It just seemed so impossible to do anything about it.
I'm on the last side.
Until we actually hired these people who said, oh yeah, we can do that.
I know.
Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised.
I'd love to get rid of the popcorn ceiling as well, but that's a whole different thing. Because that basically involves taking the ceiling down and putting up a new one. Which wouldn't be bad if you could put some, like, recessed lighting in the ceiling or something.
Mm-hmm.
That would be way down the line. Okay. One last panel. And I am good on this ivory for a little while. Just staring at it. It's very white right now on the camera because it's got a lot of light on it. But it will be toned down by the end of everything.
By the end of everything?
Everything. When entropy finally moves all of the individual atoms equidistant apart from one another, and everything is frozen, and nothing moves. Eternal static for the rest.
And then it'll look not quite as white.
I would say for the rest of time, but if everything was perfectly equidistant from each other, then there wouldn't really be time per se. Because that would rely on there being like
some sort of motion.
Motion and light and stuff. Everything would just cease. That's when I'll be done with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it all turns into infrared photons.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Nice. 3 of them done.
And I'm just finishing that, so I'll be taking that over. I can also do that pillar as well, which doesn't require nearly as much finesse. Okay, that is all of the plaster base coat done. So now, clean off this brush. Get the little clump of ivory that formed on it out. Okay. So, what we have now is I need some of that red brown so that I can take over the filling. I'm going to start with this pole here. This is an inside corner, so it's just a straight log of wood that I will be painting. So.
Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the cap back on and shake it up again and just use the paint from the cap.
Because you don't need all that much?
Not much, not much. If I need more, I'll just do this again. But this way, then you can
have it next to me.
Use the bottle next to you.
So what I'm doing
Since Nikki's left-handed and I'm right-handed, we are
on opposite sides of how we would need it.
Would have been right.
So I'm moving a little chocolate red brown here. A little melted chocolate looking paint. I put in a little base here where it meets it just to give myself some breathing room. And then I'm also gonna do the same along here and try and get a nice straight line right there. Okay. And the same over on this side. Alright, so that gives me a little breathing room by the gray. And now it's just about getting this wood painted in. There are a lot of grooves to the wood, which is a very nice effect, but it does mean it actually about doubles the amount of surface area you need to cover because of that little up and down action. Makes a single surface quite a bit more quite a bit more surface on the surface. Yes.
So there's more of the thing that there's more of.
Yes, exactly. This is a very informative show. It's not just relaxing, but it's also you're learning that there's more thing than there is of the thing normally, but there's more of it. So I'm just getting a nice base coat of this red brown in here.
Since we've been doing this, we've hardly ever been in a situation where you said, oh, there was less of that than I thought there would be.
That's very rare.
I don't recall that really ever happening.
I feel like it happens, just rarely.
Yeah, pretty rarely. Usually it's, oh, that was more than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Occasionally it's been, oh,
that was exactly there.
Yeah, or it wasn't as bad as it
Could
I
have
thought
been.
it had been. Yeah.
That's always nice. I like those.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that surprisingly worked pretty well. Okay, so I'm just gonna get the top here. There we go. Set that aside so we can look. There is an inside corner. It's a nice simple floor with a wood pillar. And it's painted all the way around. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. And it's magnetized. I'm going to bring over these windows you've been working on. So, as we can see here, we have a silvered window that my dad here has nicely lined with the red-brown wood. And all we have left is all of this inner area, which makes it look quite messy, just having that. But my job is going to be to fill in all of that fairly carefully, ideally, without dripping. So, I'm just going to set it on the table like this so it doesn't move. And go through and fill in each of these areas.
Yeah, it's a little trickier than it looks because the grooves are actually pretty deep.
Yeah, the wood grooves that are along the frames of each of these pieces are fairly deep and absorb a fair amount of paint.
You have to kind of dig into them with the brush sometimes.
But you can see how quickly this looks complete as you fill in that unpainted section. So, it's pretty impressive actually how it goes from that to that in like one go. I always really love that part.
Okay, I'm going to clean the brush because it's starting to get caked up. And then probably do the curved walls, I guess.
That to that. It's like night and day, just putting in that last bit. Alright. And now I'm gonna go around to this side. And get the outer edges.
These curved walls have a lot of surface area.
The curved, well, what they're actually doing is they're like having a full corner. So there's like a secret amount of surface area in them.
Mm-hmm.
And it hides how much surface area it has. But you're through all the windows. That must feel nice.
Yeah.
Feels probably really easy now, huh?
Well, yeah, these are easier.
I always personally like to go hardest to easiest when I'm painting something. I feel like it's like painting downhill. I think I've said before. I don't know if that even makes sense, but you know what I sort of mean.
Yeah, it's not like climbing uphill.
Yeah.
And if you ever tune in Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern time, when we play Dice and Dungeons, you'll frequently see how hard it is for one of our party members to even climb stairs.
Mm-hmm.
My character spends an awful lot of time carrying that other particular character upstairs.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Not you.
Well, that would be everyone, I'm pretty sure. All right. And once everything is base coated on, look at how lovely that looks. It still has some touch up to do, mostly on the floor. But it's quite a pretty little piece.
Yeah, came out nicely. And give this another shaking.
Only 3 more windows to do.
And a million more corners.
A wall and 5 corners. And then after we do that, we will be touching up the floors. And once, mostly the floors, we've avoided thus far having anything on the plaster, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if we can keep that streak up. And then once we get the touch-up done, all we have left is the washing. Alright.
Yeah, this bottom has a... Yeah, I finally found where the edge was, but made a little mess of it.
On the plaster.
Yeah.
A little touch-up isn't that bad.
Because it was, just wasn't really clear where
it came to an end.
Yeah.
Well, now you know for the future when you get to... Right?
Mm-hmm. So that one will need some touching. At least on the outside. We'll see what it's like on the inside. No, the inside's going to be...
Even
the
worse.
inside goes down to the floor. Okay.
Yeah. There isn't a bottom edge for you to worry about in the wood on the inside. Luckily.
Yep. I feel lucky about that.
Okay. Really, this is where I really like to start liking a piece, is when I can sort of see what it's gonna look like. You know, getting all the base coat in.
Yes, you can
really.
So the scabbiness is
makes
all gone,
me enjoy painting a piece. That's kind of why sometimes I go a little fast and just go like, let me get through this base coat and I'll fix it later. Because I just want to get to that point where I can feel like it's a piece.
Mm-hmm. You can see what it's going to look like.
Even if it's a little messy. But that's usually just me being impatient. Because if you take your time and get the base coat in right, then you don't have to spend a bunch of time fixing little mistakes here and there. But everyone has their own painting style and everything like that, but I do like a piece when it starts to look like something. I'm through 2 of the 4 windows. That's exciting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the inside corner here. Sort of amassing them over here. Yep. Alright.
Okay. Corners.
I know. This piece has 5 rounded corners to it. This set. I really like the look of the rounded corners, though.
Yeah,
like,
they are cool.
They're very elegant looking. When I was designing with my dad here and my mom, our unpaid intern, when I was designing the sets, making the layout, it was really hard to not just go like, well, why don't we just make this a rounded corner? Why don't we just make this one? And it's like, you know, a warehouse probably wouldn't have a rounded corner. You want to maximize the space in a warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, you know, a labyrinth isn't going to be all rounded corners. But so it's hard to let go of the rounded corners because I really, really like them.
Yeah, but you know, a magic shop or a not yet throne room.
The Necromancer set we're doing has square corners, but then it has like a little cupola sort of thing, like a little alcove with 2 rounded corners in it, which is fun. Is that rounded corner all set?
That needs to be finished.
Well, I mean, like, it's all set from my
Yes.
section?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. 4 more. And a straight wall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one more window. I'm gonna set these floors up there because they don't require any of this wood finessing. And there's a little spot I missed. Let me grab that. Right there. Right there. I'm gonna just slide these over towards you, and the finished base coats up here. They're looking so cute.
Yeah, they do look good.
Well, I'm kind of leaning towards just getting through the whole set, maybe going a little later.
With the base coat at least, yeah.
Well, I can probably do the wash relatively quickly.
Yeah, yep, I could do some touching up while you're doing that.
Yeah, when we get through all the base coating, if you want to do touch up, and I'll wash what's touched up. We could probably finish this by 5:30 or 6.
Be close.
And if we can do paint a full set in, like, 3 hours or something, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's without a lot of practice with a specific set.
No, it gets quicker, like with the windows.
And it's not technically
just
a full
learning,
set because we still have the door and the magic circle and stuff. So it'll probably be more like a 4-hour thing total, but you know what I mean. But dividing up labor like this has been quite useful, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Been efficient.
One thing I'm going to do while I have the brown here is on the door. I'm going to paint in these cells quick.
Oh yeah, since it's out, as well.
And I don't want to have it dry face down, so I'm going to just do one side right now. And get the wood section of the door painted in.
Mm-hmm. If you want to do another stir up.
Yeah.
It's not the most efficient use of the paint, but it's the most efficient use of the time.
Well, the space.
Mm-hmm. Like if we had switched sides, then we probably could use the same bottle.
But our arms would bump into each other periodically.
Yeah.
Which is worse. Because then we make mistakes. As a lefty, I like to sit at the ends of tables and stuff where I don't, if I'm sitting at a restaurant or something, which I haven't done in a long time. But I like to sit on the end so I'm not bumping into everyone with my arm. So I just threw in a little brown paint to fill in those cells of the door quick. And then I'm gonna just get back to getting the base coats done here. This red brown is it is like a warm, cozy feel to it.
Yeah, it's a really pretty color. Yeah, we found it works really well for wood.
Yeah, it's a good...
Because it's light enough that you can put a wash on it to highlight things. There's another color, flat brown, which is
darker and a little cooler. It's not a warm color.
Which is kind of nice, if you want to make things look a little bit more forbidding.
Or formal, or... But it doesn't take a wash nearly as well.
No. When you can put a black wash on it.
And it will show, but an umber wash won't really show on it. And going along the edges. This is my last window, isn't it?
Yeah, when you do these, because the texture on the graining is so deep, there's spots that ended up not being covered, like little bubble spots. So when you finish them, keep an eye out for those.
Okay, in the wood. Alright.
And I think I've been trying to get the paint into it.
I'll have to do a tiny bit of plaster touch-up right here. It's not even particularly visible on the camera, but it's there. But there are four windows. So, onto the curved wall, which looks quite messy right now, but with all the splotches of plaster and stuff. And you have a second curved wall here? Great.
And when you catch up, then you can probably do the last one or two. Because I'm sure you'll be moving along much more quickly than I am.
Well, I also have the other side of the door to do.
Oh, that's true.
So I'll see. But I'm using a larger brush, so I get along a little quicker. Because I don't have to deal with all of that detail line work, thankfully, because you are doing it. It makes my life a lot easier, even if it doesn't make yours.
Yeah. Enjoy your easy life.
I will. It looks like you pretty much got the middle bar here already.
Yeah, the middle bar I was pretty much doing because...
It's not that thick.
Well, since I have to do the line on the top and the bottom.
It ends up pretty much
filling it in.
I'll probably just do a tiny bit of touch up here and there.
Yeah, look for the little bubbles.
Yeah. but you can see it start to come together here as I fill it in. It looks very nice. Alright, now that that side's done, I'm going to flip it around and do the back and then do the sides last. I see there's a couple spots where we'll need to touch the plaster up.
Mm-hmm.
But those are real easy to do. So, it's not bad at all. Okay, there's the two sides. Now to get the actual sides of it. And a lot of these, you don't really see them fully because when they're assembled, they're all touching each other, ideally. But that doesn't mean that it's not an area you can ignore. Now just the edge left here. Alright, there is a base coated curved corner. Now on to the next one. I'm gonna start with the back side actually. I found that because it's so large, getting through it first is maybe the easiest thing so that it can dry because it's hard to handle unless you're holding the back. So if I can start along the bottom edge here, like that, that should be dry in fairly short order while I do the rest of the back. And it will let me be able to handle the piece a lot better. So, what's been your favorite part of painting these so far?
Actually, was painting the window frames.
You liked painting in the window frames?
Yeah, it turned out to go really quite well.
Smoothly?
Yeah. So it was a
Pleasant
pleasant
surprise?
surprise, and I was able to finish them pretty quickly.
I thought for sure that would be your least favorite. I'm very surprised.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Huh.
That was a famous line from Gomer Pyle.
From who?
See?
Who did you say?
Gomer Pyle.
Oh, hearing it again didn't help.
You can look it up on your history internet.
The history internet.
No, it's an old TV show.
So, getting these all painted. They're looking lovely. Maybe after I finish this, I'll take a second to show everyone how the fully, well, not fully painted. They still need a touch-up and a wash, but the fully base-coated,
Roundy things.
so the set in general is looking. So we have a little inside corner here, and I'm just gonna do like window, window, and you can sort of see the set coming together. It's very flat still, and that's because it hasn't been washed. But there's a little rough view of what the dungeon set is looking like. It's pretty exciting. We only have
a bunch more to go.
You have 2 more of the curved walls and 1 regular wall.
I guess, yeah. We'll just keep at this.
Yeah, if you're feeling okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're close enough to getting done that
it feels like we should try and just push through.
This was solid tonight, right?
Yeah. So it's not a big prep dinner. And I kind of want to just get a good sense of how long does a dungeon set this big take to paint, you know? It's like, granted, we don't have, you know, all the pieces. There's still the door frame that needs to be primed, but it will give us a pretty close estimate on how much time we can expect for something like this to take. Alright. There we go. Got this back part in. Got a little on my glove. That spot up. And going along the top now. I really want to see this set in its full glory all put together.
Yeah, it'll be pretty nice.
You can take a picture. Post it online.
So far, all we've seen is a mock-up, so...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a rough mock-up that we did. And seeing it almost in its full glory. Since I still need to prime a couple pieces and paint them.
Yeah, the door frame would have been done, but the original one...
The floor wasn't quite right.
the wrong floor.
Or in the door entry area. This section down here, in between the door frame, it was wood floor, and these are stone floors we're using. So, Lexi had to go into the program and edit it and change it and reprint it. Luckily, we have models that we're planning to use that door frame with the wood floor in, so it's not like a wasted piece. But we have to do that little correction because we're doing something a little unusual. This set was not designed to have stone floors, but rather wood floors that you might have seen in our show if you watch it. And if you don't, it's here on Twitch at Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern.
And you can go back in time
on YouTube
and watch the shows with the wooden floors.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use this town set
quite a bit.
Especially a warehouse and a house.
In Nordfeld, we used it a lot.
And it was a villain's house.
Yeah,
it was mansion. A warehouse, mansion. Pretty, with many rooms.
Alright.
In the hallway.
I'm just throwing in the wood section of this other side of the door. Doors have two sides.
This one will be done in about 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
I'm gonna give my brush a quick cleaning then, because it's getting quite saturated.
Pretty gummy, huh?
And yeah, when a brush starts to get saturated, it gets a little gummy, so it's always good to periodically clean it out. That way you maintain control over what you're painting. Yeah, so you'll be done with that shortly.
Yeah, I'm just doing...
Do you think these counters are the same color wood or a different color?
Let's do a different color.
Give it a little...
Yeah, just to contrast with the walls.
One thing I know I can do in the meantime is this little chunk here. This is the top of the door. After we're all done painting everything, this little piece gets glued into the top of this door frame to hold it all together. Like that. And that, but you want to paint it all first, otherwise you're setting yourself up for a giant headache. And with that in mind, I'm gonna quickly get at least half of it painted. Get part of it, let it dry, then get the other part. Because this piece I did prime. Because this is a universal sort of piece.
Okay. So this is pretty much ready to go. Yep, and even though I painted pretty much the center section, there's still little spots.
Mm-hmm.
So you can finish that, and by the time you're done with that, you probably do the straight wall too.
Probably.
And then finish this one up.
So I got that started. I'm gonna let that part dry and get the other half of it later. Just make sure I don't have any wet paint on my glove here to get on everything else I'm doing. Okay. Yeah, I can probably handle this little straight wall as well. And then when you're done with that, why don't you do gray touch-up?
Okay.
This is doing it all in one go like this, or at least as much of it as I can. Whoops. That'll be a little plaster touch-up I just made. Not huge. I know. I was talking. Knowing how long at least the majority of this takes will be very valuable in budgeting our time and planning for the Etsy store. That's why I'm kind of pushing for it. To see how long it takes us to do a good job making a set of so many pieces. It's right around the 5th one where you start going, why did we plan so many curved walls?
Mm-hmm. For me, it was right around the 3rd one.
Was it?
Yeah. And then I just gave up. By the time I got to the 5th one, it was like, well, whatever. My entire life is devoted to curved walls. Except, I was doing really well, but I messed up the base of this one. It's going to require a touch-up.
That happens. All of these pieces are going to require 1 or 2 small touch-ups.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of painting.
And at some point, you just start sometimes lose focus a little bit after going for a while.
Or gravity just sort of goes against you in a split moment.
Yeah, I know. You just get a high gravity well, kind of
centered right over your painting.
Like a gravity wave comes through.
Yeah, it happens.
Bumps your hand.
Or a drop comes off, or you go a little too fast and it does a little spray.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of those things are bound to happen. And they're easy to fix. Like, I got this little tiny spot of brown right here on the white, and that's a single brush stroke to fix. It's really not a big deal at all. Okay. So now I'm going to tackle this straight wall carefully.
Yep, probably finishing up about the time we get this one done.
So that I can do that one.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm going to need you to shake the paint up one more time.
Okay.
Okay, I obviously had
paint on your finger?
Paint on my finger and I touched something.
That happens. That's another thing that sometimes causes a touch-up, and it's not a big deal at all.
I mean, they're just little spots. Fortunately, like, they're in the middle, so that's real easy to touch up. Yep, getting near the end of the show here. And losing a little focus and watching things up.
There is one side. There's a lot less surface area on this little guy, but it's honestly about half the amount of surface areas on the curves.
Yeah, the square corners can be kind of frustrating because there's two flat walls.
Mm-hmm.
Those have even more surface area than the curved ones.
Yeah. But the curved one's frustration comes from a sense of, I should be done already.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to, I'm just painting two walls.
Yeah. Because it feels like you are painting just one wall. I mean, but it's effectively two in the curve. So it can feel a little like you're spinning your wheels almost. Alright, so we're almost done with our base coat here. The next step after that will be touch up, which shouldn't take too long. It just requires a little focus on making sure that each piece has fully been checked over thoroughly. So if you would like to, take the gray and just focus on the floors for touch-up.
I will do that next.
Well, I am finishing these up. And then the pieces that you've touched up, you can set aside for me. And I will do the same with the plaster. Yeah? Does that sound like it would work?
Yeah, sounds like a good deal. I'm going to need to stand up a second here.
Stretch your back.
Yeah, because I was quite hunched over.
That's one of the things I like about switching to this shorter seat, is I can actually keep my back mostly straight and good posture. I don't hunch over. You might consider
doing that.
doing a shorter stool.
I'm going to get you a clean washing cup.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Mine's full of all sorts of gunk.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Getting this last bit filled in. There we go.
Every once in a while I think about getting out the lubricant and keeping those hinges from creaking, but they make such wonderful squeaky, noisy, spooky,
Oh, on the door?
yeah, spooky house sounds.
Uh-huh. You like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I have to do here is the edge. And then I have the last curved wall to finish. Go ahead, start with the windows in the inside corner. Those will be the driest.
Mm-hmm.
These last ones will be the wettest.
You want me to put these?
Just set them over in this area, and we'll have all the things to do up there. Set that aside, and now I'm on to the last base coat here, outside of a couple pieces that aren't ready to print, that aren't ready to paint yet.
That there. So I don't think that's it.
Which is bound to happen otherwise.
Yeah, this set came along
Pretty nice.
pretty nice, yeah, considering, it had the windows and the other little details and things.
Well, we have been doing this for some time now, so
Yeah.
we know what needs to happen. So that helps a lot. And
having been practiced at it.
just going and being like, okay, this needs to be done. No, this needs to be done.
Yeah, getting the order of things in a way that makes it easy or easier helps. Especially as you cut down on some of the touch-up. We got quiet.
Yeah, I know. We're kind of like hunkering down and focusing.
Yeah, so
as we get.
our shift is over into overtime here. We're not getting paid time and a half because of the man.
Is the shift a 2-hour shift?
Yeah. The man's making us work overtime without extra pay. Or something. I don't know. I'm going to start a rant about capitalism to fill the time.
I mean, I'm always open to ranting about capitalism. Alright, so now that that piece is done, I'm going to quickly wash off my brush, and well, actually, I'm going to quickly do the other part of this little door topper.
Since the brown is out.
Since the brown is out and on my brush already.
And then you're going to do the ivory touch-up.
And then I'm going to be doing ivory touch-up.
And I will paint the tabletops.
Well, why don't you all... Yeah. Yep. And while I'm doing the ivory touch-up, I'm going to keep an eye out for wood touch-up. We shouldn't need it, barring any accidents while doing the touch-up.
There'll be some little white specks here and there, but I think the wash will actually cover those pretty well.
Yeah, it should, depending on how big they are.
Yeah, we'll see.
Alright, now that this little wood topper is done, set that off to the side, dry.
Yep, that's still pretty wet.
I'm going to clean this off, and since we're getting into touch-up territory, I'm actually going to replace this glove, because
it'll do the same, what I just did here, which is...
Yeah. Well, these are easy, cheap gloves, you know, something that I really don't mind going through. So let me just reach over and grab a new one. That way I'm not getting wet paint that's on the glove on any of the almost complete figures here. And for touch-up, I shouldn't need anything more than this little brush here. So, I'll grab each one, give it an overall inspection. This one is fairly simple, and there's no ivory to be painted on it, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't look it over. Alright. I'm gonna just get like a single drop of ivory if I can. Like that. Because I really shouldn't need much here. Alright, going one at a time. So what I'm looking for are things like this, where there's like this little bit of brown that's leaked onto it. And I'm just gonna take a little tiny bit of ivory. Go over it like that. Just try and make that line, that surface, as uniform and clean as possible.
Okay. And if you could hand me the two cables.
Do you want to do those in like deck tan?
Do you want to do them lighter? Yeah. Well, let's look at our color chart here. Deck tan is kind of a grayish brown.
Mm-hmm. With an umber wash.
Mm-hmm. It would work. Could do them in buff. This is the color we've been using, red brown. Flat earth isn't bad, but there doesn't contrast very much to it.
I think buff or deck tan.
The deck tan will look a little more exotic.
Yeah,
with
go.
a wash on it.
Do deck tan.
And if it doesn't look good, well,
you just repaint it.
Just paint it over.
So you're gonna do doodads while I do the wash?
Doodads?
Yeah, like the counters.
Yeah, I'll do the counters. The counters have these little wooden things. Those will take a little detailing, the bottoms of the counters. And I'll probably get a bigger brush out and flat top. Is that an iron-bound door or just wood?
Iron. I just haven't done the iron yet. I just put the wood in.
Oh, the whole outside will be iron?
Yeah. It's a secure magic shop.
Okay.
You're receiving a phone call before you start. Why don't you go take care of that?
Yep.
And I'll be here. I'm gonna pop this over. Ooh, look at that solo scene. Alright. And we are... Right now what I'm doing is just going through, just as like a refresher. I'm going through each one of these, checking the plaster specifically, this white, which gets a little washed out on these cameras, but once I wash them, they'll get a little easier to see. And look for spots like this, right here, where the plaster got other paint colors on it. In this case, mostly browns, because of the proximity to the woods. And then I'm just taking this little brush, covering up those spots, get it back to the right color. Alright. Give this a quick check. There's a nice spot that needs fixing. It's really, this is a very simple part of the process, but it is necessary for a good cohesive look in the end. Alright. This one needs a fair amount of touching up. I think a finger with wet paint might have gotten on this this piece. Just there's little speckles of brown that I just need to go over. Not too bad. Alright. And then up on this side, we have a similar little area. Oh yeah, this one got a couple splotches. You can see them pretty clearly. And that's why we do this touch-up process. Okay, so that's all those curved walls. Now just for this straight wall. Pretty sure it just needs a spot here. Alright, so that covers all of those. And now before I get washing on them, I do want to let them dry a little. I don't want to wash on a wet paint. So, in the meantime, what I'm going to do is work on this little door. Now, it looks a bit of a mess right now, but that is because I have yet to apply the metallic. And then, since this is a fancy magic shop, I'm not doing an iron door. I'm going to use this brass color for the metal part of this door. I shouldn't need too much. Just get a drop or two here. Give it a little stir to get that metal flake mixed around in there. Great. Wasn't that a nice rich brass? I do love the color of brass. You can see it's a very reflective paint. And that will get toned down. I will do a washing on it later on. But it gives you a good base color and reflectivity to work off of. So. Okay, there we go. I love how, like, rich and saturated a metal this brass color is. There we go. Turn it around a little. And we'll go along this direction now. It does tend to clump a little, so I'm just going to occasionally brush off some of the excess buildup on the tip of the brush. So you can start to see the door coming together here. Now just a little extra touch up here. I feel like that's a nice, pretty door for a magic shop. Is it done yet? It's getting close. It should be dry enough now. While that part of the door is drying, for me to at least put it together so people can see. So I'm gonna slide this door up over there. So we have these dungeon tiles. So it hasn't been washed yet, which is the next step in the process. It should have a magic bell. Anyone who is using this dungeon set, make sure there's a magic bell, like Otto's, in your magic shop. So, this is where we are at. I don't have the door frame ready yet, but as you can see, the entirety of it has its base coat painted, other than the door frame.
Oh, that looks really nice. Wow. Yeah, the white walls are good.
The white walls will be good. I'll be taking angled shots of it when it's done here.
Oh,
and
you made
putting
a brass door.
Yeah, wait, it's a magic shop. I'll be taking more angled shots of it as time for like Instagram and Twitter and everything. But here is the painted magic shop. It just needs its wash now. So who is asking if the magic shop has a magic bell that plays a different chime each time you open it?
I really wanted that done.
But you couldn't take it from Otto.
No, we had to give it back once it was recovered.
Yeah. So I'm setting these back to the side for washing shortly. I'm gonna do the washes in stages. I'm actually gonna do the umber wash first, because that's the smallest amount of washing. And then I'm gonna do the black wash. But I'd like to... This should be dry enough for me to flip it. Yep. I want to get the rest of this door taken care of quick while I have the brass out. So you can see that a dungeon set can be painted from nothing to almost complete in a single day of work.
You know, it's just going to be about 4 hours.
I would say 4 hours, but maybe add 5 just for, uncertainty of like, because we still have the door frame, the spell circle to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'd say 4 to 5 hours for 2 people.
I don't know why I'm being so careful about the underside of this table.
I mean, you should get it a nicely colored thing without getting stuff everywhere, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least don't make a mess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to touch up the gray. It's hard to tell exactly where the edges need to be, but it came over a little bit too far there. This other one came out well. It's just that one side of the one post.
Is a little off.
Yeah, it just came over a little too far. I'm just doing these kind of edges with the smaller brush. And then I get a bigger brush out that holds more paint to do the big flat surfaces.
And I am putting in the bronze base coat on the door. You can see, I love the bronze on the wood. It looks so good.
And it still needed to come over more too. So I'll do that when I do the gray touch-up. You just see there where the top of the stone needs to be painted. should have gotten that before, because now it'll be harder. Okay. So I got the edges of this one. Now I'll do the edges of the other one. Yeah, agree on that too. You know, sometimes you can't really see where the edges need to be until you do the contrasting color. And then you say, oh, need it to be over further.
Mm-hmm. This is part of painting. I need one more drop of brass to get through this. Oops. Got a little on the table. That is bound to happen on any work surface. Having a gravity moment. That's why I say entropy can't come fast enough, right?
People are always saying it. On entropy. That could be the name of an arena football team.
Yeah, like, should they have been the Washington Entropies?
Well, yeah.
Alright, slide that off to dry. There we go. Clean off my brush, and I think it's time to do a little wash. I'm gonna start with umber. Do the wood first. So, all of the brown, I'm going to put an umber wash on. Getting my pieces assembled.
You'll see this is actually going to be kind of a subtle change because it's already brown.
Yes.
But it will highlight the grain pattern that's in the print.
Mm-hmm. So a big thing for doing a nice subtle wash is that you don't want to over saturate your brush. You need to get enough on the model to sort of seep in. So it's a little wet, but you can see that darker spot right there. That's the wash sort of filling in the gaps in the wood, the little grain in the wood. And this just sort of brings the wood to life, makes it less flat, is really the goal.
And on this side, even though no one really is likely to see the underside of the table,
You want to have it painted regardless.
painted regardless, you can see the print lines though. All these diagonal lines from the printer, because basically that was just a support structure for the tabletop. And the tabletop has wood grain on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the table bottom doesn't, because it's Formica.
And here on this we do PLA printing for pretty much all of these things. We have the capability of ABS print, but that's more like a rigid tool material than it is for something like this where you want some more resolution. So it's still pretty wet, but you'll see as it dries, this just adds texture and darkness and like kind of a flavor to the wood that you don't get otherwise. It makes the whole thing richer and less flat. Because right now the piece is pretty, but fairly flat. So the goal here with this wash is to bring out the texture, make it a little more rounded feeling, a little more lived in and realistic, all that good stuff.
These dry quickly enough. I might be able to wash the tabletops as well.
Yeah, we'll see. This helps. There's a lot of detailed wood grain in the piece, and as it dries and it gets less shiny, you'll get to start seeing that come through.
So this needs some great touch up, like along the top of the stone there, where I got a little spot of paint there for some reason on my glove that got on the piece. Because, you know, why not? So I'll let that dry a little bit, and I'll pull the gray out again and do the touching up. So that was my brother calling. He had a rare single malt scotch emergency.
That he was out of it, or
No, he wanted to know if it was okay for him to buy it or not. And basically, he didn't want me to say yes, he just didn't want me to say no.
so it's very serious.
So basically, it was he really wanted to buy it, and he wanted someone to say that he wasn't totally off his rocker, doing that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can see how that really makes a big difference on that little post.
Yeah.
And when that one starts to dry and you compare it with one that's not done,
you can see the difference that it makes.
So there's that. Let's see.
So
what kind of brown did I use on this?
It's still wet, but here's a sort of side-by-side comparison. It's just got a bit more richness to it in the wood. It's not nearly as flat looking, and that's what we're going for. It's reducing that flatness.
Did I use a flat brown on this? It must have been.
I think so.
In darker color, because there's a little spot for some reason on the top. Well, let's see what happens. The worst that can happen is I'll have to repaint the top of the fireplace. Or maybe, no, I was thinking maybe a little black wash, but that isn't going to cover that. I don't know why. There is that little white spot. But there's a little white spot.
Oh no, life's great mystery.
There's a couple of them. Good.
Alright.
Yeah, this is just one of those little pieces that, it's kind of fun to have in the fireplace.
I think it's gonna go in the tavern set, actually. You're just getting this wash on. The wash is a semi-delicate process, but I find it kind of relaxing.
And there's a little chair we made last show.
And does that need anything else to it? Just a wash?
Maybe just, I think just an umber wash. If you want to.
I'll focus on the magic shop first.
Oh yeah, but if you've got a little drop left at the end after all that. So you're thinking black wash on the...
Yeah, just a very light, subtle black wash, right? Because the brown wash looks nice, but it tends to give it a slightly dirty look.
Yeah, it worked really well for a warehouse.
But...
or for an old mansion that had been kind of abandoned.
Which is what we've been mostly using.
Yeah, it was designed as a warehouse.
Yeah.
And, that worked really well because they were dirty walls from doing warehouse things.
But this, I mostly just want to tone it down slightly. It's a bit of an intense plaster without being toned down.
Well, that's a good comparison of wet, dry, and not yet done. It's 3.
So, here's not yet done, wet in the middle, and dry. See, it's very subtle, but this is so much flatter looking than that. And that is where we're going with it, is getting rid of that flatness. And it'll be even more pronounced with the black once the floor is done and everything. But it's good to get the wood done first, so that we avoid too much bleed over.
I'm just touching up gray along the edges of those little wood pillars and any spots that might have, like that, for some reason, gotten splotched on. Because paint reasons.
Paint reasons?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and then the top of these walls that I didn't know were going to show, but they do.
Oh, yeah, there's a tiny bit that creeps out.
Yeah, that would have been really easy to paint when I was just slopping gray paint on. Mm-hmm. But I didn't, so here we go. There. So that was pretty decent.
Now these are the tone set. Considering how quickly we're getting through it, relatively, is actually a good sign, because these are one of the more complicated sets to paint with all the wood and everything. There's a lot of variation and little technical bits here and there throughout it. So the fact that we're getting through this compared to the dungeon set we did fairly recently, which is just fairly uniform.
Everything's gray with a wash on it, pretty much.
This is encouraging how quickly we can do. a rather
Right.
complicated set because you have like this gray stone floor, you have all these wood bar beams.
All right, so we'll have gone on about 3 hours times 2, so that's 6 painter hours.
And
And
I
then,
still have the spell circle and the doors.
yeah, so I'd say 7 total, 7 to 8 hours of painting,
Total paint
of labor time on it.
to paint a set of magic shop.
At $110 an hour for my time.
And 3 cents an hour for mine.
No, you get, yeah, what is minimum wage? $7.65 or something?
Way too low is what it is. What was minimum wage when you were younger?
One summer I worked in a machine shop as a tool room assistant.
Meaning you carried stuff?
No, I got to sharpen drill bits and milling heads and sweep up metal chips in this metal working shop. I think it was $2.85 an hour.
What was when was that?
But I got 2 hours of overtime every week. It was in 1970. Pretty sure it was the summer of
How much?
70 or 71.
Okay, so how much would you say $2.80 was in today's money? No.
About $12.
Yeah.
12, 13.
So not $7.50.
No. No. See, I was hired as temporary unskilled summer help because I was just looking for a summer job. And I got to work in this machine shop doing inventory, and they kept me on and put me in the tool room because they needed someone to fill in. Well, I found out later that the job actually paid like $5.50, $6 an hour.
But they were exploiting you.
But they were exploiting me because I was temporary summer help as opposed to being classified in that job.
Well, it's nice now that every job is considered temporary, so that people can.
Yeah, so you don't get that kind of. You don't get that kind of
seasonal exploitation. It's just consistent, non-stop exploitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's see how
wonderful.
Much equality or equity or whatever it is that we've got now that we didn't before.
Just every single person is constantly exploited all the time. Wonderful.
So what do you want to do? Put umber wash on the wood and black wash on the stone?
That's the general plan, yeah.
I think I'm going to do the wood first.
And
then I'll do the stone. Just.
Are you going to do the wash?
On this one? Yeah, I'm just looking at a little stick. Okay. I mean, it's just like one drop of each.
Yeah, it's really not that much.
And I can use one cup, one color on one side and one on the other. I can find it. There's the black wash. There's the number.
I'm deep in the umber wash right now, so.
I'll leave it right here.
And for those who don't know, a wash is a very thin paint that you can create sort of a translucent tone effect with. It also is good at seeping into things like wood grains that are printed.
This is pretty heavily grained.
Yeah.
I want to get the wash into the grain.
And I've gotten a little wash on that plaster there. That's okay, because it's going to have a black wash on top of it, and you won't really see that because it's translucent.
I'm gonna let this dry and then decide whether I like it or not, or whether Nikki likes it or not. Actually.
And I just realized I never put us back into double feature version, so people haven't been seeing what you've been doing.
No,
I've been on solo because you went away. So
well, I've been doing this. I've been painting these tables.
So you've been talking about what you've been doing, and no one knows what you meant.
Mm-hmm. So there's without wash and there's with wash. Let that sit a bit and then get a judgment call. This little chair is pretty dull looking. I'm going to put some umber wash on that while I'm waiting for that to dry to decide whether to do the other one or start over. Take it off the sticky tack. Let's see if this will hold.
And I'm thinking, because of how long it's taking, we might save the black wash for next time. But I would like to get through the umber wash at least on this side.
Yeah, there's a lot of surface area to wash. So it's not surprising that it's taking a while.
But I don't know. I mean, also, I could just sit down here and quietly do the last bit of black wash, and you can go get dinner ready and stuff. If you want, when you're done with your bit there.
Kind of up to you.
I would really like to get some pictures of it. You know? But, yeah. Just enjoying myself here. And quietly doing it sounds kind of nice. The music's nice.
Yeah, you might not remember what this looked like before, but the wash really made a big difference on the chair. So, I can get it off the sticky tack thing. There. So here's the table. I need your value judgment here.
Okay, let me just get this part on.
With and without.
I think with is good.
Think it's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't want to make, since it's a, a wizard thing, I didn't want to make it look too rustic.
I also kind of like the idea of seeing a set go from unpainted to fully painted in one sitting. At least most of a set. Okay, now I just need to get the edges. I only have 3 more pieces to do in the umber here, except for, the door and stuff. But that needs a little more brass, but I'm really getting through here. 2 more curved walls and 1 straight wall. And then, once those are all umber washed, I think I'm just gonna go on through and get the black wash done as well, so that I can take a nice picture later.
I'm going to do the black wash on the stone here so you can see what happens when it hits neutral gray. It makes a big difference on the stone.
Hi. Our resident 3D printer showed up in the back.
Check and see how things are going.
Oh, going all right. I'm trying to see how long it takes for the full process. So we're running a little long today.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting really close to being able to finish the whole set.
Oh, that's great.
Sans the unprimed sections that needed fixing, like the door frame.
Yeah. Well, fantastic.
Going through.
They look beautiful, right?
You like it?
Yeah. Yeah, they look amazing.
I'm doing the umber wash, and then we'll be doing a black wash after this, which shouldn't take as long because it's not in like these delicate bars of
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
the wood. But I think it's shaping up to be a lovely little magic shop.
It looks gorgeous.
And I also like the idea of having everything in one
Yeah.
video. So that's what I'm delivering.
We need new sticky tack.
There's a huge sheet of it behind you.
I know.
Alright, 1 more round wall and 1 straight wall. Go. And then we'll have all the wood done. You seem to be having gravity issues.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, those tables are pretty much done.
Those are looking cute. Doing that lighter wood, I think I'll have them standing out a bit more
Yeah.
in the shop.
Do you want me to put a little bit of ivory over that bit there?
Yeah, if you want to, you can. There's a couple on the curved walls, especially because
Yeah, I see that.
they're a little tricky to get around with a wet wash like that. So if you'd like to,
Let me do
I don't
that.
know if that's usable still, but it probably is dried by now. Since that's
Yeah, it's dry, but it'll just take a drop or two. That way you won't have any discoloration.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
since I'm just sitting here.
I think a lot of the curved walls tend to have it. The other ones didn't really get it, but the curved walls are a little tricky.
Yeah, they're curved. They got curves on them, and it's curvy.
A little water.
That's a real quick fix. No, then it won't look like there's a stain or anything.
Mm-hmm. I have one little fun secret edition planned for the whole thing.
Secret edition?
That I'm saving for the very end. I think you'll like it.
A real wizard?
No. Better.
Oh, better than that, huh?
Of course, I'm in the stage where I'm like, I really don't want to pour more into the jar, but I'm not sure I have enough to finish. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I need like a drop more. All the way around it.
Yeah, there's always the extra drop.
I think this one might need a tiny touch on the back side. Since I have that extra drop of umber, I'm just going to quickly hit the top of the door frame here. I've been sort of doing extra on the side.
What wash are you going to put on the door?
Black. The door is not done though. The edges need to be brassed. So
I can do that.
If you feel like doing that, yeah, go ahead. It's almost all painted, but as you can see, all but one of the edges still needs brass. That's probably dry as well.
No, it's still alive.
Is it still alive? Lucky.
Yeah, the metal's hold up.
Yeah. So setting that cup aside, now we're moving on to what might be the final phase. Did you have a black wash cup already? Perfect. What was this? Alright, so what we have is a nicely painted and ready to be washed set that I have darkened in the wood. And now we need to do the rest of it, and I'm doing a black wash for that. This is can be the floors will get washed, and a light work on the plastic. I'm gonna start with the floors and move towards the plaster. That way I have something to hold on to. I can hold on to up here while I do all of the floor. And then I can get around to everything else. So, And then I also have these two pieces, which are just floor.
Actually, I would help with that, but it's actually a good thing for one person to do that
To
kind of
have a
washing
single hand.
because consistency.
Yes. That is true.
Otherwise, you find that one person tends to do something more splotchy than the other, or a little darker or lighter than the other.
What I am going to start with on these floors, because I have nowhere to hold them other than themselves, I'm gonna do the edges here, like this, and let those dry, and then I'll get the top after it's dried at the end. Otherwise, my glove's just gonna be covered in wash, and I'll invariably make a mess.
And I'm just cleaning cups.
But you can see how much that darkens this gray and makes it a nice textured stone rather than a very sort of flat, boring gray.
Let's see, since this is a high-end magic shop, it's not going to be too blotchy, is it?
Well, it depends. Is the blotchiness dirt, or is it like
variations in the stone?
Variation in the stone itself? That's the question.
That's a question of importance.
So I'm going to start by getting some wash on the stone and then spreading it out from there. And you're going to get variation. That is part of it, and it actually is kind of helpful to have that variation. But as you can see, I am able to spread out just like one brush full of wash quite far. And then for this little bit, I'm going to just add in a little more.
Yeah, I'm peeling off the old sticky tack because it's pretty well used. I could just get a new popsicle stick because we've got like 100 of them, but why waste a good popsicle stick when you have to, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Why exactly?
Why indeed.
So you can see this adds a lot of dimensionality to an otherwise very flat looking gray. And then, since I can hold it with the piece that isn't getting washed, I can go around the edge as well and get it good and consistent across the whole piece.
So I'm going to clean out these cups. Not sure if there's anything much more for me to do.
You got the door.
I got the door. I got these tables. They look okay.
I think that look good.
Okay. We got the chair. Got the fireplace. Got the cups. Clean those out. And maybe I'll start prepping dinner.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll switch it to the solo. Because I'd like to just get this all finished, you know? If I can. There's only a full set to do. Right?
Yep, I'll be back once these are cleaned up and see how you're doing.
Alright. Let me pop it over this this one. There we go. Get a good downward shot of the whole thing. So you can sort of see how much darker and richer that wood is now. So, nothing to do but keep going. That gives you a nice sense of the floor now, where it's going. Luckily, with the corners, there's not all that much floor to do. So, once I get through these windows, it will get progressively easier. Yeah, I did it. Good. Alright. And once I get the floor done, then I'll hit the plaster. And with that, I'm gonna want to really go light. More so than I am with the stone here. Hope everyone's, at least if you're watching this live, I hope everyone's having a good Tuesday. You can sort of see them drying here. Alright. This is the most satisfying part when you're starting to see everything coming together. The pieces kind of getting finished, getting close. Each one at a time. Let's see. I'm going to do this wall section because I don't have much floor to do on all of these curved walls. And then I also have this bronze door toned down. Alright, here we go. Getting through these center floors. And then all I have left are the rounded corners for the floor pieces. Getting to see them all dry slowly. Alright. Now for the rounded walls. Go along the edge here. I'm going to build out from there, darkening as I go. And then just along the edges here, so that you have a consistent look all the way down. Like so. Going along the edge again. Since these are all magnetized, I'm just sticking them together to dry. And this has been quite a journey building these from scratch, from filament up through being finished. Alright, there we go. That might be a little dark. Let me pare that back a little. Two more to do. And then I get to do the plaster. Last one of this flat grain. Let me just spread that around. Alright. Alright. So, that is all of the floors done. These pieces are just floors, so I'm going to pull them off to the side for now. What I need to do next is the plaster. And I'm going to want to do this fairly gently, fairly carefully. As a wash, I'm probably going to be dabbing some off of my brush to minimize how much is on there. And just spreading around a little bit fairly quickly. So that just sort of tones it down, and I'm actually thinking I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush to get a little more control over what I'm doing here. So we're going from something that's a little saturated and flat to this sort of toned down. White. Maybe I'll keep it the bright white, actually. Now that I'm looking at it. Because this is a fancy magic shop. In which case, I want to just bring this back to that brighter white. I'm actually pretty happy with how it is looking. So, I'm just going to need a touch of this ivory. If I can avoid getting a cup dirty, I will. But I probably will need to. Yeah, I think it's better just keeping it bright. Because we're looking at a wizard shop. They're not going to have particularly dirty walls. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this ivory and refill in where I tested. It's good to test. But what that means is we're pretty much there. And this is the nice thing about painting, is if you don't like a thing, just paint back over it. No problem. Yeah, that just toned it down a little too much. And I want this to look like a nice, clean wall. Alright, perfect. So, the only thing I have left to do then, for now, is this door. This door is a little too bright. I have a little black wash left. And my job will be to quickly and conclusively tone down the brightness of the brass using the black wash that I have left. I'm also going to try and get it into the wood in between in order to sort of give it a little dimensionality. Unfortunately, it's frothing a little. We'll see how that turns out. we have a kitty guest. Oh, there we go. One kitty guest. Meow. Alright, now I've gotten cat hair everywhere, which is important to do. So, something like this, it's a little bright and flashy. This, as it dries, it'll tone it down nicely. I'm just gonna do the same on the other side. I need a splash more. Black wash here. And I'm gonna go sort of up the door with it. Up and down the door. Building it up. Alright, there we go. Now it's got the wash on it. Disperse it back a little. And then just a little bit here, 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 and on the bottom. There. That'll dry, and that will be a nice little door. A little brass door. I feel like, given that I want to keep the walls nice and bright, all I have left is a little extra piece that I've been wanting to do. And it's gonna take this section of the wall. And I need to get one specific color out of pile of colors. And that color is the flat black. I don't need much. Cap sealed perfectly, but that's alright. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit of this black, and this will be a little upside down because that's the way I have to go. What I put in is a little mouse hole. But maybe for the wizard's familiar. I just thought it would be really cute. So, little mouse hole in the wall. So, now that the piece is all set, what I'm going to do is assemble it quick. For that, I'm going to move the camera up a little, get a little better view of everything. So, there's a lot of ways to assemble this piece. I'm going to do the way we originally designed it. counters. And you have a magic shop. Now, the only pieces that aren't done on this are this door, which needed a repair. So this door frame hasn't been painted yet, but it will slot in right there and have this door sitting in it. And a spell circle. So, these need to be primed still and painted, but you can see quickly how this cute little magic shop is coming together. So, thank you everyone who watched. We'll be finishing up the last little touches, I'm sure, shortly. I'll upload a picture of this onto Instagram and stuff like that. We'll have all this up on YouTube on our channel. We'll be playing video games tonight at 9, and me and my wife. And yeah, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/DiceAndDungeons. Follow us on YouTube, Twitch, whatever you watch us on. Check out our main stream, our big D&D stream at 2 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a very good day. Alright. Talk to you later. Bye.